3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live to the world.
Welcome to the State Transportation Investment Fund, Lincoln County STIF Committee meeting of January 7th, 2021. Welcome, and we're glad if there's anybody out there that's watching today. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Pam Barlow Lind. I am the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indian Tribal Planner and the chair of the STIF Committee. And I'll pass the baton to other folks here that are here today. Cindy, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Yes, I'm Cinda Bruce. I'm the program director of Lincoln County Transit and acting STIF coordinator. STIF being statewide transportation investment program. So improvement program, I'm sorry. And we are here for our annual prioritization meeting. I'm going to throw the baton to Katie Townsend, who's also a committee member. Katie?
Hello, I'm Katie Townsend. I work for Lincoln County School District as the McKinney-Vento liaison serving students with unstable housing.
William?
Okay, I'm William Turner, and I, as citizen of Lincoln County, I'm also on the Cascade West Council of Governments Senior Services Advisory Council, so that's why I'm here.
Casey, are you available?
Yes, I am.
We lost your picture is all.
Yeah, I'm still here. Oh, I'm Casey Miller, Public Information Officer for Lincoln County Commissioner's Office, and I am here to help facilitate your meeting technology.
Then we're missing Linda Neugebauer would be the last committee member present. Linda?
Linda Neugebauer, I'm a member at large, and I'm on the board of directors for Friends of Lincoln County Animal Shelter.
And I see Arla is muted but present. Arla, would you like to say hello?
Sure, I'm Arla Miller. I'm with Oregon Department of Transportation, Public Transportation Division. I'm just here to listen today. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you for everyone attending today. I neglected to mention I'm also a tribal liaison to the Cascade West Area Commission on Transportation as a voting alternate. On the committee today, we have introductions that we've completed. The next step is election of the chairperson and the vice chairperson. Do we have any nominations?
I would like to nominate him as chair and Linda as vice chair, just like we had last time.
Any additional discussion or nominations? All right, if there are no other nominations, I'd like to close nominations and call for a vote or a consensus. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, sounds like we have a unanimous agreement to continue with the same folks. Thank you for the recognition, and also congratulations, Linda, on that too. Thank you for your service. The next item that we have on the agenda today is a presentation from Cinda Bruce on the Lincoln County Transit STIF projects for, let's see, I see on the agenda it says the 2019 to 21 projects. Is that a status report for so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
I felt the need to bring everybody up to speed because of the COVID project have not started as we expected. So when I'm done giving the status of the project, I will go ahead and move into some projects that are being proposed for your recommendation and prioritizing for the Board of Commissioners approval, okay? So to begin with, we had 12 projects that that were recommended, you all recommended to the Board of Directors. And we were moving ahead pretty well on these because there was a lot of background work on some of our operations projects as far as schedule changes and that type of thing. But before we could get that far, COVID hit. Thankfully, before COVID hit, we were able to get 2 projects. One of them was the school transportation project, which allowed students grades 9 through 12 to ride transportation throughout Lincoln County using their student body cards as their passes. That project was so successful. In addition to the passes, Lincoln County also provided a couple sessions of travel training. And as we move forward with the school transportation, I've heard that the schools are requesting additional trainings for some of their classes, and we're really excited about this partnership, enhancing it, and making some changes to some of our current stops to make it a little safer for our students to gain access. We're currently working with some folks from the school district on some changes we're making. Down in Walport, we're looking at finding a stop a little closer to the school without being in the middle of the students and then endangering any of them. So there's kind of a balance, but we're working on it and things are going really well. And I'm going to be proposing an expansion to the student transportation, which I will talk about next. But the second project we were able to implement was the Lincoln City Loop. It's a city circular expansion, and the expansion was to provide service on Sundays and holidays, with the exception of Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's Day. So those 2 projects have been very successful. They're ongoing, and we are nearing a time frame when we're going to be able to start implementing some of the other. Some of our schedules are near completion. So as students start heading back to classrooms, we will be ready to provide adequate transportation so they can safely use our system. So yeah, there were a few setbacks, and COVID being one of them. I think we're all feeling the pain of that one. I don't think I really need to get into too much conversation on that, as we're all feeling the pain. With that, I guess, are you all ready for me to go into reviewing the current project list? If anybody has any questions or anything, you know, I'm happy to answer.
I do have a question. So since due to COVID and since it was harder to implement some of the projects, did that mean that there were savings to put forward for future projects?
Absolutely. It means that there were carryover funds. I was very carefully on the some of the projects that I put forward with that funding. They could not be ongoing operations projects because that large amount of funding will not continue. So I actually sent I actually sent you all, let's see, an ongoing services list that has only the projects that are actually operating, that would need to be ongoing services. And the total of that project list is $1,696,636. And when we get to the 23-25 biennium, I expect that to be fairly close to the amount we'll be receiving. And of course, if there are any additional fundings, it would be nice to have a little put up for reserve and contingency. You'll also note in the 21-23 biennium project list, I have a substantial amount in program contingency and capital reserve. And my goal is to not use that funding and be able to carry that funding over as a safety net for funding, you know, as it rises and falls, so that we have a safety net to keep all of our projects going with without having to cut back. So with that being said, I'm just going to go through the project list, and then we can discuss, or you guys can ask me questions, and we'll just move forward. So the South County Loop, we were unable to get that project going, but it's a really important project. And I felt all of the projects that you folks picked for funding last time all merited moving over to the ongoing list, since we weren't even able to begin or test them. So the South County Loop circular, Monday through Saturday, 8-hour days, is one project. And instead of the shopper service, it's the same idea, only I've kind of expanded the scope into special services. That would include services for shopping trips, but also other events, because we get lots of requests, like for folks to do evening things. Sometimes there's programs at the Performing Arts Center or other places that our transportation disadvantaged, or, you know, people who may have trouble seeing at night would really like to attend. And this has been an ongoing request. So it's kind of the same thing, only I expanded the scope a little bit to give us some flexibility to provide some of the other unmet needs that we've seen over the years. The third one is a low-income fare. This was also on our last list, and I am looking at making this more cost-effective for our customers. You know, I don't know if I should say this out loud, but I'm going to. Most people who ride Lincoln County Transit ride Lincoln County Transit because they have no other way to get there. They're low-income, transportation disadvantaged individuals who oftentimes have a hard time coming up with the fares we charge now. Now, for the loops and things like that, the, you know, dollar fares, that's really not a big thing. But if you get somebody going intercommunity on a regular basis, say trying to get from Siletz or Lincoln City to Newport, or South County to Newport to a job, that is a lot of money. Like, it is cost prohibitive almost, with the minimum wage jobs that are available to most folks in this area. So I'm really, of course, I will need to talk to my board when I set the pricing, etc. But I'm hoping to have a monthly pass between $20 and $30 a month. And actually, I think $20 would be really good for our community. Right now, we do have where you can purchase $41 passes for $30. That's a 25% savings, and it sounds really good. Unless you're one of those folks trying to get to work 5 days a week at, say, it can cost anywhere from $3 to $10 or from $4 to $10 round trip. Put that on a 5-day-a-week basis and, 4.5 weeks in a month, and that's a lot of money. So I'm just throwing that out there so that you guys can understand the meaning behind my madness with that. It's just really important that our system, that our folks can afford to ride our public transit system. Okay. My 5th project on here are bus stop signs and installation throughout Lincoln County. In all of our areas, we're having issues with people knowing where to stop for the bus. Key locations, you will find bus stops. At the Newport City Hall, you will find a bus stop. In Lincoln City at key stops, you will find bus stops. South County, there's probably a couple, and East, there's a couple. We need signage at our stops so that people know where to get the bus. It also adds visibility and lets the community know that we have a public transit system and shows some reliability and some consistency throughout the system. I would also like to keep the expanded Lincoln City Loop going. That has been so needed and so appreciated, and it's been very successful. East County expansion, if you all remember, that will add Sunday service to the East County route, as well as serve the west side of Siletz. That's important because in Siletz, a lot of their resources are on the west side, including their school, which we're trying to assist with student transportation. They have they have a workout center down there. They have a gymnasium that the children hang out at. I mean, there's just lots of things that the community have invested in that we would like to see people be able to get to. The 9th one down, and this is match funds for grants. This is one of those projects that will not be an ongoing project because we're not going to have this funding the next biennium. But by allocating $249,000 each year, we will be pulling down $1,617,045, which is a pretty good bang for the buck. The next project I have down there are marketing transit services. This is to market our new and expanded transit services to residents and visitors. I think that's really important for the community to know what's available. I've allocated $25,000 each year for that. Marketing is expensive, and you all know that I will do whatever I can to get no-cost marketing out there as well. Pam and I have been on the radio together. I've been on other radio programs. We can pull in the newspapers to do public service, but at some point, it really raises the marketing to a different level when you have some funding to put behind it. This can also be, you know, brochures. There's Katie Jacobson and Casey Miller, I think, will probably both be having some input on different marketing ideas that will work well. So sorry, Case, I kind of threw you in there, but you're an expert at these things. The next two line items are program contingency and capital reserve. These are very important items. Capital reserve, I have down to assist with capital match if I were to have issues coming up with it, or unanticipated costs. The costs of things are really, they move around a lot, and as an example, fuel would be an example of an operating cost that could really inflate or deflate. Fuel costs right now are at an all-time low. We've all been enjoying really, really low fuel costs. Whether they're going to stay that way, I don't know. I hope they do, and I hope that I will not have to get into any of this funding. My goal is not to touch these funds, the contingency and reserve, and to keep moving them forward just in case. One of my worst nightmares is having to cut back a service that I've implemented. So people get to where they depend on them, and it's like pulling the rug out from someone or kicking them while they're down. I don't want to go there. The next project would be to add one midday loop in the Costa Valley route expansion. You will see that in fiscal year 21-22, there's no funding. And in 22-23, there's $147,000. I have a grant that will be taking us through the 21-22 fiscal year. It will also give us a good indication of whether this is a good move for an expansion. I believe it is. Right now, people have the ability to go over in the morning and come back in the evening. And if they miss that evening run, they're in trouble because there's not another opportunity to get back till the next day. It also makes it rough on individuals going over to Corvallis to utilize the regional medical center. A lot of folks aren't feeling well when they go over, and to have to stay over there till evening to get back, it's tough. I think this will bring new ridership to the program. I think that it's something that the community needs, because also on the Costa Valley route, it also lends connections. We can connect to Amtrak. We can connect to the Groom Airport transporter to get to the Portland Airport. You can get to the Eugene Airport. It opens up a whole new world for people, really, to have those connections, to be able to plan and get around without a personal single occupant vehicle. And our last project is the South County Intercommunity Service. And we would be adding Sundays to that service, 10 hours per day from Yachats to Newport. That is going to be a real game changer for those who live in South County and need to get to Central, East, or North County to work. So those are the the projects I've indicated. You know, one thing I didn't really talk about was school transportation. I really want to expand on school transportation. Instead of grades 9 through 12, I would really like to expand that to grades 7 through 12. Most of our high schools are actually a combination of middle school and high schools now. I know it's in Newport here, it's kind of that way. Lincoln City, definitely, even in the same building. And if we start showing our students how to use our system by grade 7, they're not going to be so quick to, well, I shouldn't say that. It may deter them from going out and just grabbing a driver's license if they know another way and are used to another way of getting around. I'm not saying that they're never going to get a car, and I wouldn't advocate for that, but it just opens things up for our kids. It makes it to where they can stay in safe environments, where they can attend after school activities instead of going out and getting in trouble. I think these few dollars we're throwing towards this is going to save us a whole lot of money in the future trying to keep them out of trouble. So that's just my 2 cents worth. And I would like to open it up. I'm going to sit back now and listen to you folks talk about how you feel about these projects, and work on prioritizing.
Cinda, I've got a question. Could you give us some parameters for prioritizing? Is it financial? Is it project? Is it just emphasizing one item over another?
So what I did when I made our project list, I took, and I sent you all so that you would understand where the amount of money came from. We only used 150,000. I only project to use $150,000 this biennium. That's why you'll see some of the larger cost one-time projects that are really important to the district, because this is an opportunity for us to put in long-term infrastructure like the bus stop signs and things like that, and not have to worry about continued operations or continued costs on them. They're like one and done. So when I put this budget together, I made the budget to match, because budgeting is what I do here. And it's really hard for me to have a budget because the revenues don't add up to the expenditures. It's just not right. That's not supposed to happen. So basically you will find that the total biennial STIF plan expenditures match our 21 to 23 expected revenues plus our carryover from the 21-23 biennium. So all of these projects are in the scope of being funded. And I guess it's just a matter of prioritizing. How do you all feel about the project list? I really would appreciate some input. Do you guys see any heartburn? Or is there something that just appears to be totally out of whack?
I just have like a kind of a foundational question. If we struggled as a county to move forward projects due to the pandemic, are we going to experience those same struggles this next biennium? And should we put some thought into how to overcome those things so we can move forward with projects?
That's a really good comment, Katie, and I would agree with you. And I wish I had really specific answers. I think we're moving in the right direction as far as immunizations becoming available and those type of things. But yeah, I'm happy to discuss potential issues, consequences, what should we do if, any of that stuff I am open to. My hope is that we are going to overcome this, and you know, it's going to take a while for things. Like, I don't want to accept that this is a new normal. I'm ready for things to get somewhat back to normal. I don't know if we'll ever get back where we were, but I do still expect people to need public transit and to be able to get to work and the things they're doing now.
Could you describe to the group perhaps some of the challenges that were faced? I remember you telling me about just difficulty hiring new drivers, so that we know, I mean, we can kind of forecast ahead if things continue to improve. That really what we're looking for is that we need adequate staffing. Are there other things that you've encountered beyond adequate staffing in order to move projects forward?
Adequate staffing really is the main problem, because when the pandemic first hit, there were so many unknowns, and we just knew that there were certain demographics that were really getting hit hard, and people were dying. Now, a lot of my drivers are older individuals, are retired. They have underlying conditions, and I did lose a couple drivers who just said, my family is not willing to risk my health for this job. So we have bounced back from that. We are getting drivers. And to be honest with you, I think probably some of the other issues are, you know, like the extra on unemployment. Heavens, for a while it was $600 a week additional, and people could make more on unemployment than they could working for us. So those are some of the barriers. I know they still added the $300 a week, but I think for people really looking to go out and get employment, that we are a decent place to work. We have good benefits, and in the beginning, we didn't have some of the safety protocols in place that we do now. Right now, I have a commercial cleaner coming in and sanitizing our buses. Since then, our 5-county Nowata agency has written a successful grant for what's that thing called? Electrostatic fogger. What that does is it can sanitize 3 buses at once. There will be, there's like hoses from this big piece of equipment. And this is like an $18,000 unit that we were able to get with COVID funds. All 5 of our counties each got one, and then we got one extra in case anybody's went down, so we would have a backup for that. So I expect some of our costs to go down once that comes in. We were granted that not that long ago, so it'll be a little while, but like not forever. We are requiring all employees, I'm in my own office with the door closed, that's why I can be without a mask. All employees in the office and in the buses are required to wear masks. All passengers are required to wear masks. We have put up plexiglass barriers to give our driver additional safety, additional protection. So, and we have hand sanitizer stations also. So distancing, buses cannot operate at any more than 50% capacity. So those are all directives from the governor, and we implemented them right away. In fact, we had a lot of them implemented before we were required to do so, because we do want what's best for our employees and customers. So we put things in place to make it a little more palatable, for lack of a better word, for people to want to come on board and work for Lincoln County Transit. That's not saying we have people lining up, but at this time, all of our routes are covered. And during, you know, we look at it as a slow time, but it really hasn't been a slow time, because behind the scenes, we've been doing double time to try to keep up with, you know, like the weekly updates from all this. And I know you understand this, Katie, because you work for the school district. So you're experiencing the same thing, and you as well, Pam. So I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but we will also be looking at other things, other potential things that will hopefully bring more employees to Lincoln County Transit. And during the downtime, during this downtime, we've been able to start working on some of these schedules and really going out and looking, like down in Walport up at the school, to see how close do we get so that it's safe for the students to get to us and safe for us to get to them. We've come up with new routing for the Lincoln City High School that makes it to where the students don't have to cross Highway 20 over to the Elks to get, you know, that's a long ways. So we'll be going just right there. We have some exciting things going on, and we have been working on these projects, but they have not yet been implemented.
Yeah, thank you for that. One of the things I think of is just the quantity of items, which is a really amazing yet ambitious list to tackle, you know, two-prong difficulties potentially. Talked about hiring more staff. You have enough for current routes, but my impression is that there would need to be more hiring. So maybe some of the marketing funds could be used towards reaching out and marketing different positions. And then a question that comes to mind also related to the difficulty is, I mean, you're already so busy in what you do. I wonder if there should be a way to have FTE for coordination put into this in order to roll out all of these different services. Because if you're continuing what currently is done, but then we're adding 10 additional projects, I wonder about capacity to implement all the projects with all that's already going on.
Wow, that's a great suggestion there. And obviously one that I didn't think of. I like that idea. Maybe I wouldn't think it would take a full-time person. Maybe a half-time person.
Yeah, perhaps that person does some of the marketing, but also is helping to bring the projects to fruition.
Right.
Especially if we have, I think you allocated a lot of the carryover, but I just know the more programs in my position I add to my plate, it reduces my capacity to get different things going. I mean, you hit kind of maximum. And so if there was a way to bring some extra coordination time towards these projects, I think that could be just a good potential solution.
I
I,
agree, Katie. I would wondering, Cindy, if it would be possible for you to estimate how much, so to speak, management or coordination time by somebody in your office is going to be required to get all these things going. Because I think it could be a pretty big number.
okay. So you think it may require a full-time employee?
It could. I think
Okay.
Kitty.
Okay. Well, and
Well, I know-
I mean, we can look at this list. And I am open to you guys looking at this list, and we have many things in here that aren't operations related at all. But then we need to remember that these are going to be ongoing costs.
Yeah.
Okay. So would any of you have any recommendations? I'm thinking that under match funds for grants, I'm thinking those could be reduced, and I could work with finance to find out how much that position would be and deduct it from the match funds for grants. How do you all feel about that solution?
Mhm.
I really like that idea.
Yeah. I do.
I think that was a really good catch, Katie, and I appreciate that. Sometimes you get so busy in just doing the work that you don't think about some help. And you're right. Like,
But, yeah, when you look at this list, you say, well, this is a huge amount of money and a lot of work. But these projects don't all have to get started on the same plot. So,
That's
you
right.
can take one on if you have somebody to do it, spend a lot of time working on it, get it going, then it'll run itself. So it's not a problem of managing them once it's gone. It's getting it going that's going to take some time. I had one other question about this. On your proposal for bus stop signs and installation and stuff, I think that's very good. And the only question I have is that because of COVID, the cost of materials and labor has skyrocketed.
okay.
And are you covered on that? It's hard to estimate right now, but I think it's probably worth asking about. Because
Okay.
that might not be enough money.
Okay.
Or you do what you can with what you got there, but
That's probably.
you need.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Bill. Go ahead, Bill. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, I'm done.
Okay.
I'm finished.
Okay.
Is there any chance, Cindy, do you work with the Public Works Sign Shop to help with the production of any of your signage?
I actually have a good portion of just the bus stop signs ready to go up. What I will need to purchase are the poles, and there's hardware that connects the signs to the poles. So those are the type of, the signs themselves I had done some time ago, and then I just kind of got stumped from there. So I tried getting the cities to work with me. I thought if I got the signs and I paid the cities the cost for the materials, that maybe we could partner together and get these up. And you know, the cities, they're busy with their own projects, and this is really not something that they want to take on, I found. So my original intent of this didn't go through. So now we do have part of the signage, but the posts, you know, the posts that they go on and the little clamps that they use to hold them on are what we'll need. And then you have to have somebody to go through with the appropriate right-of-ways and the permitting, and there's quite a bit to this. Arla, would you like to speak to this at all?
Yeah, I was wondering, are most of the signs on ODOT right away?
My guess would
Like
be
on 101?
yes. A lot of them would.
So, we could possibly work with ODOT on installation if you get the hardware and the poles, and then I can get with like Ken Schonkweiler, who is a planner out of Area 1 up here, to find out who can install signs and what cost would be, that type of thing.
Oh, that would be.
If
And
you
then
can
the
send me a
one-
location over your signs, we can go from there.
And then the ones that aren't on ODOT right away, then we can put them in another list and work on those a little differently. Oh, that would be
Yes.
wonderful. And Ken is so wonderful to work with too.
Yeah.
Wow, this has already been just a great meeting, you guys. I'm sorry, I'm making notes as we're moving through here. My note taker had to have the day off today, so I'm running the meeting. I'm gonna be responsible for minutes too. And there's a lot of good information coming up that I want to make sure gets in the minutes. So I really appreciate this input. It has been really helpful. And you're right, that marketing is going to be useful in many areas. I didn't make my marketing notes though. Katie, when you were talking about marketing, you made some really good suggestions that the marketing be used to assist with also, my mind just went blank.
Yeah, marketing, position openings, benefits, parking for Lincoln County Transit.
Recruiting,
The recruiting is what was the big thing that I think, yes.
and this might be a crazy idea, Cinda, but I was wondering if there's any way that the COVID funding or other county emergency funding could contribute to the contingency.
That's something that I could look into. The county, I do not get any county general fund, and pretty much, I don't know that the county would be in a position of giving me funds, but I have written a grant for COVID funds, which I could look at and work with Arla Miller. Arla Miller is my regional transit coordinator. So when I have questions or concerns, she's there and keeps me in compliance, makes sure that what I'm doing is something that is okay to do with the funding. She's my safety net over there. She's a great assistance. So with some of this contingency funding, I may be able to look at some of my funding and see if it's something that could be moved. I'm not sure. Arla, what would be your feeling on that?
So the CARES money for COVID could only be used for COVID. It cannot be put into a contingency.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's not to say that our contingency has to be this much. Okay. When I did this budget, I made sure that the projects that we were looking at remained whole. The operations projects. And then I had money above that. And I knew that I couldn't have them going into a project that would be ongoing because a lot of it's carryover money that won't be available in future bienniums. So, but that's not to say that there aren't other pots of money. If we get something started here that is really going to work for our program, that's not to say that there aren't other pots of funding that I could go to or use for these purposes of ongoing funding for something that might be really useful for the program. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be a really interesting test case and to see how the special services would work and then what kind of use we get on the West Siletz route in particular.
Absolutely. And you know, and that's another thing, these special services that I have down, I have those budgeted for 40 hours a week, and I don't see those services being utilized 40 hours a week. My guess is that probably 20 hours a week would probably be more reasonable. And 20 hours a week is actually a lot of service for special services. That's like 3 or more, 3 or 4 events a week. That's shopping days or events, or, I would feel, I would say, and, of course I'll want your input, but I'm thinking that those special services could probably be cut in half and still provide a lot of services to our community.
Is there any need for any additional need to serve the area where the people lost homes in the burn? Rose Lodge area, Otis area?
What we are doing is we are providing wildfire passes to anybody up there needing services, and they actually ride at no cost. And I'm keeping that program open through March 31st to give people a little time to get on their feet, to meet their FEMA needs, or there's just so many things that I'm not even aware of. So I've been working really closely with that. We were able to do evacuations during the wildfire. My drivers were absolute heroes during that whole fiasco. I just want to share that with you all. So I really believe that those special services could be basically cut in half. And that is going to, that's going to allow for, I think between the special services and the match for grants, I think we can come up with the FTE that you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
I think they sound very reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's going to ensure the success of the program.
I do too. And by doing part special services and part match funds, it ensures that a pretty good share of money is going to be able to stay in the operations. That's important. So I have, by special services, I put a half on there. 20 hours a week really is a lot of enhanced services, you guys. It really is.
And we're still, we've got being an outreach to, say, Logston, Eddyville, Rose Lodge, that kind of a shopper trip.
Yes,
It does note isolated areas.
right.
Elk City.
And even, you know, I've had a lot of requests like from Depot Bay, and you would think, well, there's a bus that goes by there, you know, 10 times a day. But these are for more, our more senior populations who can't just jump on a bus and carry all their packages, and it's just not possible. So it says isolated areas, and of course we would encourage isolated areas, but not exclusively isolated areas, because sometimes the need is in areas where there's not a dial-a-ride for our, you know, our senior or disabled populations who really need it.
Could you add a caveat to isolated areas and just maybe say not close to public transit access?
Yes.
Or something along that line. So dial-a-ride is spoken to, and if a bus comes by but it's 4 blocks away, it's not really reasonable for somebody who's elder to get there.
Right.
But that might help identify isolated as not having to be out in the boonies.
Okay. I like that. And I really like these changes we're looking at, you guys. Having special services to half and reducing the match funds to amount that will make it possible for 1 FTE to assist in not only implementing, but maintaining these services is going to be a great improvement for the transit program. And it's so nice to have, you know, people who understand that when you add all these projects and extra services, that they don't come without need back in the office to keep them going. I really appreciate you guys noting that. I guess as a staff person, I'm a little hesitant to say those type of things because I don't want people to think I'm just trying to get out of work, you know? So it's nice to have that recognized and put in play here.
Well, every time you apply for a grant, you create more work. Every single time. And somebody as a grant coordinator should be dedicated for that, not having to put that on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what I have on my list now will be to reduce the special services by half. And of course, I will update all these sheets and get them right back out to you guys so you know, it's in writing and we can verify all this. Match funds for grants, I will work with finance to find out how much those will be reduced. I will do an even split between the 2 years. And I think with those two tweaks, I think we're gonna get a person to help. I think that's very doable.
Good.
Wow. And also, Arla, with your information about having ODOT assist, because a lot of our stops are on Highway 101 and Highway 20 and state highways. That is going to make that project come closer to being completed. Like with this funding, we'll take it as far as we can. And I think that it's gonna get us somewhere. I think $225,000 will get us somewhere on this.
Okay.
And can you guys think of anything else here? I have to tell you, I am so pleased with these changes. I'm really pleased with these changes.
Were you
You know, not
wanting to
being
use any of this time you talked about earlier, prioritizing some of the projects in order of like preference to move things forward? Obviously trying to accomplish all, but there will have to be some steps.
Absolutely. That would be wonderful. That's an excellent next step. And you know, this one page that I gave you as far as the local plan, when we do grants, it is required that the projects be derived from a local plan. So I have that information down there just for your review to see that these projects are in a local plan. And adequate staffing is in the plan. I can't tell you the page number off the top of my head, but I will be able to find that. And that's really, besides reducing those other two, that's really the one change that I see. And I don't see any issue with that. So I think that prioritizing by the way you want to see this come together is just a great next step.
Well, one thing that we could do to just kind of kick it off for discussion purposes then, I'd like to just throw this out. How about if we just go person to person and we pick one or two things that we think that are top priorities? How does that work for everybody?
That sounds good.
Okay. Linda, would you like to kick that off?
Well, the one I'm looking at is the low income fare. The you know, people can't get to work if they can't get transportation. And, you know, when you make your list, you start at the bottom as far as what you think the least priority, but it's not. It's like when you run any kind of business, who's the most important person? Your custodian. They keep it clean. Right. You know, we forget that. You've got to start at the base of whatever you're doing, and getting people to work is the base.
Do you have a second priority, Linda?
I'm good on that one.
Okay. Katie?
Yeah, I agree. I like the idea of the low income fare. I think that's helpful. I have some maybe questions about sustainability of that. If like a certain percentage of riders switch from buying the daily ones to buying monthly, if that would reduce your revenue too much. So just a wondering, but I know it's very important. The South County Loop has always jumped out to me as very needed because so many critical services are on that Crestview Drive or Crestline Drive. The food pantry and South Lincoln Resources, the schools, the community college. I think the faster that route can be up and going, we know we have students that want to utilize that for working purposes. A lot of people live up there, but a lot of the jobs are down in the, downtown Wallport. That really that's a considerable walk. Or we have people that work in Newport. And so just that loop, I think, is going to really open up doors for people to access a lot more services and access employment.
And even the medical clinic will be on that loop.
Yeah.
So there's so much up there. It's really, the more you think about it, the more things you think of, and it's just, whew.
Bill, do you have 2 priorities you'd like to suggest?
Well, okay, I agree about the reduced fares for low income is number one, and I agree that you need to look at the structuring of that to make sure it doesn't hurt you, but I think it's really important. I have actually 2 number 2s. I'm trying to get a tie between the South County Loop for Wallport and getting West Siletz.
Okay.
I've been over to Siletz enough times to things to know that it's important to get that west side of Siletz on.
Great.
But I know the South County Loop is important to me for, as Katie pointed out, almost everything's going to be on it, including my house.
Oh, good for,
It
that's
was pretty
great.
good. So it's number 1 would be the reduced fare part for low income, and number 2 either the South County Loop or West Siletz.
Okay.
I think that I could confirm that I think those are really important priorities, all of them. I think Sunday service in Siletz will really help people get to both important social activities and be really important for people to get access to service work jobs. A lot of those are weekend jobs, and so that will really help a lot of people be able to be employed, access employment. Just wanted to note that I think school transportation is another important priority.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss anyone? I think that gives you a pretty good start for some priorities. Is that enough, Cinda?
Well, from what I see here, I see the low income fares number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I see South County Loop and East County expansion, they're in a tie. So is there a preference whether I put them 2 and 3, 2 and 2? How would you guys like to do that?
I'd like 2 and 2.
Okay. Arla, is that gonna work?
Sorry about that. Typically they have to have,
Sequential.
a 1, 2, 3, not like a tie.
But I will know that even though they're put in there, we will know that we need to move on both of those, like, at the same time.
But I think just basing that on population, Cinda, maybe it would help is, I would suspect that Waldport is serving a few more people, so maybe make it 2, and so that's number 3 would be justifiable.
Okay,
And I don't really think that drops us down in terms of any project, so
no,
if that helps make the list acceptable.
that sounds great. Okay, so we have the low income fairs 1, the South County Loop is 2, we have East County expansion is 3, and I have to tell you that I like the way you guys are doing this. School transportation is 4. And so now we still have South County Intercommunity Service, Costa Valley, the contingency, marketing, match funds, expanded Lincoln City Loop, which is already in operation, bus stop signs and special services.
And the employee.
And the employee, thank you. I was looking at a different list and I wrote it on another one. Thank you.
I'd like to suggest that maybe the FTE should be number 5.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
And then for the sake of equity, there's some other projects on here that include adding Sunday service. So, and not just equity, but also efficiency. Like if we're adding Sunday service, one of our higher projects is Waldport or South County, and then it's East County. And then did you say Lincoln City already has Sunday service?
Yes, Lincoln City is a continuation of, that's the second project we were able to implement. So are you thinking of the South County Intercommunity?
Yeah. Right, because that's the last project on there that includes adding service that would incorporate Yachats to Newport route.
That's
So
right.
that kind of falls into a similar category of, you know, working on these routes and the availability to all of Lincoln County residents on Sundays.
That's great. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Think we have a consensus? Bill? Linda?
Yep, that's correct.
I think so, yeah.
Wow, we still have 7 more projects. This is a lot of projects.
Yeah.
Does that make the question, does that make the extended Lincoln City Loop number 6 and the South County service number 7?
The extended what? Expanded Lincoln City Loop.
One
I
that's
would-
continued.
I would say we should put South County first and expanded Lincoln City 7 since it's already going.
Okay.
Well, let's do what we did before. Let's look at the remaining priorities. Bill, you want to kick it off this time? What would you take as your next 2 priorities?
Well, I mean, I've lost track now, starting with,
We've got bus stops, marketing services, capital
well,
reserve.
I think that the next thing I would say is, I really think the marketing services thing is something that you need to look into, because it's one thing on here that probably, yeah, is communicating to the district what can happen, and I think that's really important.
I do
So I would put marketing services next, and then I think my other one is, and I don't know whether we've got this or not, the Costa Valley midday loop. I know of a number of people that have had trouble with that all day long schedule. And
Yeah.
so I think that would be helpful.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Katie? What would your two be?
I think high up there for me would be the special services, because I like how that can create unique routes for individuals who need to get to certain places when it's not already on the route. So I'll put that one up high up there. For my second, gosh, let's see. Yeah, Costa Valley route expansion. I agree, that would be a good one. A lot of people have appointments that are out of the area or need to get over to the valley or vice versa.
Mhm.
Linda?
I would go with the marketing first and then bus stop signs. The marketing advertises what we have out there. Once people know, they have to be able to get on the bus, and people don't know where the stops are. And that one also is not going to be, I don't think, an extremely expensive one since you've got the signage made.
Yes.
I agree with the other ones. I was just looking at what will affect the most riders.
Starting to feel tough, isn't it, getting out of the bottom? I think I would lean towards marketing and the Costa Valley for the next ones.
Okay.
How does that look for rankings, Cinda?
Okay, so we have a tie with marketing and Costa Valley. And then we have a tie with special services and bus stop signs.
So let's go back through between marketing and Costa Valley.
Okay.
Katie, you want to kick that one off? Which is the first?
I'll actually go with marketing. I'm gonna flip there. I think marketing would be really good. It's also gonna help with getting more drivers to actually fulfill some of these routes.
It is.
Bill?
I would go with marketing.
Linda?
Marketing.
There you go. We've got a clear one there.
That's great. And then the Costa Valley then would be 9. And then we have special services and bus stop sign and installation.
Okay. Katie? You want to choose a
Right. Yeah, I know it's a tough one they're both important, but let's go with, I'll go with the signage. I think that would be good to get those up and going. And
Bill?
I would go with the services.
Okay.
Linda?
Bus stop signs.
And I think I'm going to come down on the side of bus stop signs.
Okay. So that would put bus stop signs at 10 and special services at 11. And which leaves match for grant and the contingency reserve.
Let's do that the same way then. Let's start with Bill. Match or reserve?
Well, I think match for reserves.
Okay.
And Katie?
I'll go with the match.
Linda?
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that too.
So then we have match at 12 and reserves at 13. Okay.
Poor reserves, that's why they always end up at the bottom.
Well, we gotta make sure everything's paid for first, right, before we can put any money in the bank.
It's always
So,
important to have a reserve.
Arla, do you think that we should rank the operating versus the capital and have them as two separate on the application? No? Okay.
No.
Thank you. I prefer not, but I just wanted your expertise on that one. Thank you. Wow. You guys did a fantastic job. This is really good. And I will get this cleaned up and send it out so it makes sense to all of you. I really like the adjustments that you guys needed to see because they are going to be so helpful to the program in implementing these, Katie. Like that was really valuable input.
Great.
So I have
Yes.
So on the 14th, we're also scheduled for the 14th meeting. And what I will have this out to you before then. So if there's any issues that we need to address with it, we can finish them at that meeting, okay? But on the 14th, what we will be doing is we will be ranking the discretionary applications, not ranking just thumbs up or thumbs down. And if I'm not mistaken, Arlo, don't we only have like one application?
I'm not sure how many's in your region. I think it's just the one for a project from the Oregon Cascades West Council of Governments.
And
Am I correct?
that's the only one I know of. And we're gonna have to discuss that, you guys. I have, I wanna discuss that one. I don't, because in this application, what it does is it's gonna cost us like $11,000 or $12,000 in match, and I don't know that I'm comfortable with that. So we will be talking about that on the 14th. And, I scheduled like 3 hours for that meeting too, and that one's gonna be really quick. Okay, like we'll discuss it, we'll decide, you guys will make a decision. And if you guys can get through this list in this much time, I say the next meeting's not gonna take any time at all. So I really appreciate all the time, you guys, for this. We wouldn't be able to do any of these projects without your input. So you guys are vital to this process. And, this is a really good example of why we have advisory committees, because they're eyes from the outside looking in. And sometimes I can miss the obvious because I'm just too mixed in with everything. So I'm really pleased with the rankings and the amendments that you had me make, and really thank you all for all your time. When we get off this call, I'm going to start getting the new list together and getting them out to you. And then it'll be great because then on the 14th, you guys can just confirm that, yes, that's what you wanted to see. By that time, I will have the cost of an FTE with the reductions made in the other services, and you can just let me know if that works for you or not.
Hey, team committee members, this is Casey. I have set up a new meeting login. So Cinda, just be sure that if you are looking at the information, I put revised STIF #2 meeting. So sorry for the confusion, but I have to create a new one so I can use county commissioner software instead of emergency management software. So, and I would say too, I apologize today for, causing you guys a little bit of a headache, but let's definitely try and on the 14th, log in as many of you have done, 10 minutes in advance so that when we do go live, we're live at 1. And it's possible that somebody was looking for the meeting on YouTube and it wasn't there because, we didn't start on time. So maybe if we meet just a little bit in advance together and do our audio checks and make sure everybody's in, that would be a good process for the next meeting. So thank you.
It would. And Casey, I didn't send out the meeting #2 information yet.
Oh, good. Okay. So it won't confuse anyone.
As I'm easily confused, I didn't want to confuse anyone else either.
Okay.
So that's a good thing.
Yes.
We'll start out with the clean slate, guys.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. You guys did really well. I think it worked.
I think so too. You guys are a great committee. Like the way you guys went about making these projects and everything, it was really pretty slick. So, is there anything else, or is it time for you to turn our committee members loose to finish their day, Pam?
Well, I think if you don't have anything to add, and today's meeting gets posted to YouTube also, is that correct? Or to the website? Did I hear you say?
Yeah. So sometimes it takes a little bit of time for the YouTube meeting to show up, but it will, and then I will put it on the website.
Cool. So we'll look forward to that. Thank you, everyone, for trying a new way of doing a meeting today. I think it worked pretty well. It's nicer to see everyone in person, but this will do, and keep everybody safe at the same time. So thank you for all of your hard work, Cinda.
Thank you all for all your support. This was wonderful.
With that, any additional items for the agenda then? I'll declare that our meeting is over.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you all. Bye.
All right.
Bye.